Anxiety leads to constipation. Constipation leads to anxiety. When anxiety comes up, we can feel really like we go completely out of our body, out of touch with ourselves. The mind races, and the worries can seem to just go on and not to end at all. And what happens then is that we start to lose touch with ourselves. And this, of course, interferes with our quality of life, right? And so from the Ayurvedic perspective, there's a direct connection between constipation and anxiety. They create a vicious cycle with each other. And so they come as a result of excess vata dosha. And when we look at what we call the dosha, which is made up of the elements of air and space. Space is something, maybe some of you might think of space. Space is nothing, it's empty. No, there's space. And so how does that happen? Well, we have too much light, dry, airy food is one of the things. Our activities, if you travel in a car every day, maybe you commute, or you travel in airplanes at all, these are things that increase the air in us, and the air and the space. So once our internal environment starts having too much air and space, the qualities of that are that it is dry. It's dry and cold too. But that dryness then starts dehydrating us. And then if we tend to have dry foods or dried fruit, for example, or popcorn, or things that are light and airy, crackers, that combined with too much activity, just too much activity of any sort, then the air and space in us goes up. And this is the vata going up. And so that dryness then, because vata's home is in the colon, which is where the constipation takes place. So it gets too dry in there. And so there are some simple remedies that you can do to take care of the constipation. And a lot of times, if we have the anxiety and constipation cycle going, then sometimes a little remedy isn't enough. In other words, we have to put remedies on both sides of that. Meaning we have to do something about the anxiety and something about the dryness that's going on. So one of the simplest things that you can do to start with is to soak a nice small handful of raisins, depending on the size of your raisins, maybe 20 or so, maybe 25 if they're really small. And to soak them in just a little bit of water, about a half a cup, or maybe 60 ml or something like that. And then in the morning, so you put that in the evening, it's nice if you can put some hot water in there, and let's let it sit out overnight. And then in the next morning, you just drink the liquid. Now, if you've had chronic constipation, this may or may not work, because you're going to need it right away, but you keep doing it, and you have it first thing in the morning, and not with your food or anything, you just have that. And you don't eat the raisins, just have the liquid. Yeah. And so that's something that you can just start to do to help to bring some moisture back into the colon. So then the other thing that you can do for the anxiety part is to use this marma point. So if you take your left hand and you close your fist very gently, and right where your middle finger falls, you take your right thumb, the tip of it, the very end of it, and just put it right on that spot. And you don't have to press hard, but if you start feeling anxious, you can hold that point and just let it rest in your lap. Yeah. And the thing is that, if something, marma points are maybe you've heard of acupressure points in that. It's like that. It's the same idea. So what we're doing here is by saying hello to this point, we say hello to the possible movement of prana or energy that will then help calm the nervous system down, which is what's happening when we start to feel anxious. Yeah. So those are just two really simple things that you can do to start with. And you might say, well, if I get anxious, then how can I think about doing this? And so that's why we're talking about it now, because you can kind of get used to it and play with it a little bit. And so that if you start to feel any inkling of we'll say overstimulation in your nerves, then you can just use it right then. One of the things that happens when people get constipated is that they want to stop eating. But if you stop eating, then you're not putting anything in there. Things are not going to move through very well at all. And so how many meals do you need to have? We really need to have 3 meals in the day. Now, I did 2 meals in the day for over 10 years. And yoga led me to that, and it was in my early days. And and what happened was is that my Agni could never get stronger. And in those early days, I didn't really understand it. And so when I came to understand it, then I realized that I needed to take care of the Agni. And when you fast, you get that nice light feeling. Yeah. And you think, oh, this is so nice. And that, but the reason, but think about that lightness. That lightness is airiness that's increasing in you, which means you're going to continue to get drier, which means you're going to have more tendency toward constipation. But that lightness, we really notice it partly because of the heaviness that we may have when we're not digesting things properly. And so once I learned how to take care of my digestion and how to take care of my body in a way that was natural and in alignment with how the body is designed and functions, then I could have the light feeling, not the same light feeling, but a very light feeling all the time. Yeah. A lot of times we only want to have 2 meals in the day because the Agni, our digestive capacity, is not working very well. But the thing is that when we don't take care of it well enough by feeding it properly and regularly, then it doesn't work very well. You see, so we're actually perpetuating the problem. And this will lead you to constipation actually pretty quickly. Loose bowels in relation to anxiety. Yes, I can talk about that for a moment. Sometimes the anxiety comes just from vata dosha being out of balance. And sometimes vata dosha goes out of balance because one of the other ones, pitta in particular, pushes it out of balance, causes it to go out of balance. And that would create some of those loose bowel, if that was something you had all the time. But if it's something you have cyclically, meaning you kind of go from constipation to loose to constipation to loose, this is actually still just a constipation pattern. It's just the colon gets irritated from being congested, and then periodically will just throw things out. That's a simple way to put it. Yeah. So calming down, using that marma point, taking the stimulants out of your diet, doing balasana or child's pose is also an extremely helpful thing. If you start to feel anxious, and if it's at all possible, take yourself right into child's pose and just create that nice soft curve in the spine. Yeah, and that'll help calm the nerves down. There are other things and many other things that we do in Ayurveda in terms of correcting the condition of the colon. Yeah, so we don't want to just manage the constipation and we don't really think about just getting rid of the constipation. Yeah. In other words, we look at the whole system, and that involves, what's bringing up the anxiety. For example, if I'm drinking caffeine, yeah, and that's something that dehydrates you. Yeah, and so that's part of what creates some of that vicious cycle. And it's very important that vata remain your friend, because vata is so powerful within us. And when it's your friend, then you can just really optimize your well-being. And when you abuse it and don't take care of it, it'll give you a lot of trouble. So So you can really learn how to take care of these difficulties of constipation and anxiety naturally. You don't have to take drugs, you don't have to take harsh laxatives and that. And again, if you're coming from a place of, for example, constipation all your life, it does take a little bit. It's not like popping a pill and having everything come out of you. But often the capacity to digest life and food are connected. Just keep that in mind if you're having any challenges in life that you feel like you're having a really hard time handling them. Yeah, this is all connected. And if you think about it, if I have the ability to handle the difficulties of life, how that's kind of the opposite of anxiety. Something to think about. In Ayurveda, we look at that whole picture of life and put things together in a way that has it so we can all understand what's happening and then make wise choices for ourselves.